Welcome one, welcome all, and we are back for week 1 of the National Football League. If you missed it on Thursday or Friday, well, good news. You still got 13 games to enjoy on Sunday, and this slate to begin with is a 12-game NFL slate that we have. I am joined by former Millie Maker winner in golf, Red Kachik. Drew, how are you doing today? How has everything been, and how was your summer?
Yeah, I've been doing good, man. Been following in y'all's footsteps, just chasing the niche DFS streets, and it's been good and bad. But happy for NFL to be back. Gets busy this time of year. We got NBA right around the corner, finishing up MLB, so it can be a lot on the plate. But NFL Sundays is always a nice afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, you mentioned it, the niche sport legend, and that is the one and only Kurt Jones. Curtain call right there. A guy who grinded the Summer League, grinded the preseason, grinded the Olympics, and now we are officially back to niche sports not mattering. But hey, we still got you, and we are now back for it.
They always matter.
Debatably. Kurt, how are you doing today?
Good. My bank account, like every time this time of the year, I can tell when like the niche stuff ends. So my bank account can definitely tell. And I was telling Drew, me and Drew got a little round in, kind of. A couple days ago, so not shoot the shit with Drew, and we had we made a Millie team together, and it was actually pretty decent for the opener. It definitely had legs at one point, so it was nice to meet up with him and get the Millie. Football season's back; it's ready to go. I'm happy with you guys on Saturday night. Nothing better to do. You guys know the drill. Let's get it.
Yeah. Saturday nights. They're meant for 9 p.m. shows, and we're never going to complain. That is for sure. 12 games. We'll get right into it here in just a second, but I do have to go over some of the great changes that SaberSim has made to their product and what you can get through Run Pure Sports. Again, we have completely revamped the content, and if you're looking for a place for NFL content, well, we have it here. Code RPS15, 15% off any full package that includes all sports here at Run Pure Sports. If you're looking for the NFL only package, if you don't want SaberSim, you can also use that code RPS15 for 15% off your first payment. So guys, let's go ahead and dive into these games. Let's keep this under an hour and let's do our best at that. And the very first one that we are going to talk about here is the New England Patriots taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. And here's the thing with the Cincinnati Bengals. T. Higgins looking like he's going to be out. Jamar Chase randomly pops up with an illness. Who could have saw that one coming, right? A guy who skipped out on training camp, basically holding in the entire time. Comes back on a Thursday, says, I don't really know if I'm going to play. It's up to me. And then drops an illness on the injury report on the Saturday leading up to the game. Drew, I'm going to start with you here. We're looking at a min price 3K Andrea Iosivas. Honestly, a very good, talented wide receiver here. You're also going to have to be looking at, if Jamar Chase misses, who is going to step in? We have played Trenton Irwin in the past. We have maybe looked at a potentially Mike Gesicki playing a lot, Charlie Jones playing a lot. Is Jermaine Burton even going to be active? We don't know. Drew, how are you approaching that receiving room in Cincinnati?
Yeah, to be honest, I think Andre Iosivas is close to a free square in as far as ownership goes as of now. Like I think if he's approaching 50%, like that's still under-owned relative to the workload that we would expect. And I will say he's not really a stacking option with Joe Burrow because I would want some other like high-priced pieces like Chase being in full strength. So I think Iosivas is basically like a filler at 3K and allowing me to play some other expensive stacks. But honestly, the other pieces, I don't have a lot popping for me now. I'm going to wait till inactive show up tomorrow to see. But like for me, it's Iosivas at about 80% and Gesicki around 20%. So definitely like nice value pieces to build around. It not necessarily stacking at this point, at least.
Yeah, I think the main thing to look at here, as a Cincinnati Bengals fan, Mike Gesicki's role, especially in the slot, is going to explode if Jamar Chase misses. I think you're going to see Iosivas line up out wide. You'll have Irwin kind of lining up out wide and a little bit of Charlie Jones. Gesicki's that hidden gem at the tight end position, potentially. Anyone else you want to touch on in this game before I move on to Kurt here, Drew?
No, it's really just Iosivas. I think, honestly, I'm not going to be stacking this game up because of the uncertainties, but I think at 3K, you don't be afraid to just plug them in as a one-off.
Yeah, I am 100% with you. I'll give my take here in just a second. But Kurt, Iosivas, 3K. Gesicki, 3K. Let's assume for this show, Jamar Chase is out. And people, for those who don't know, the Off the Chalk show is now moving to a premium show up to lock now. Instead of leading into the print factory, or the Morning Wood, I should say, it is now going to be up to lock. So if you want that inactive news that does break at around 11:30, you'll have the up to lock show with the Off the Chalk crew of AP. And we also have, is it JT on there too? And I don't know the third one yet. So it'll be interesting. I can't wait to watch that. Kurt, tell me about the Bengals here. You're on mute.
Oh, man. That time was actually me. Not much to talk about for this game, but just to touch on what you all talked about with the receiver situation. If Chase is out, is when we kind of got to start looking. If he plays, I think we just completely cross off the game. I mean, Yoshi, you play him, like single entry stuff, cash, but this is the Millie Roundtable. I liked Rubio's point about playing a second in the slot, stuff like that. But just any other receiver that's active between like Irwin, maybe Burton is active. Anyone like that would be the pivot for the Millie Roundtable or the Millie discussion. So definitely keep that in mind. Like Yoshi could have 5 for 40, and then the other guy gets a touchdown and maybe 60 yards. Outscores them. They're both 3K. That's the difference between you and a lot of other lineups. So just something to keep in mind. Nothing else on this game.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be focusing on the $5 Millie too, because one thing is for sure, Yosavas, which a lot of people call him Yoshi in our Discord, Yoshi is a great play at 3K. You're going to stick with him in single entry and stuff like that. But for the $5, like Kurt said, what if we get Chase out? Charlie Jones is going to be completely unknown and could be playing a very, very hefty amount of snaps. You also have Trenton Irwin, the less sexy version of someone Burrow trusts. And you know what, he's going to be really low owned and relative to Yosavas. So Yosavas is by far the best play. He is the most talented. He has been running with the ones the entire time. Burrow really likes him. The Bengals, whole coaching staff loves him. Gesicki would be the one at the tight end position where if you're really looking for a boost, a little bit of a leverage, I think 13% right now is the projection on him. I can only see that rising if the Chase news hits. One thing too, I did see Richie Smalls. You asked about the Pats D. So we got 12 games on the slate. Do not fiddle with the worst team in football. Burrow's still going to get the job done. I mean, look, Browning got the job done. I know he had Chase, out there for a lot of the time and stuff. But Zach Taylor and this coaching staff, I think, have been prepping to be without Chase. I think this Bengals offense is going to be just fine. Anyone else you guys want to mention? Kurt, about the Patriots or Bengals here? Anyone at all? Not just the receiving core.
I mean, I think it was Chris brought up a good point about the running backs, but like, it's just the pace at which I think this game will be played. I don't like the game environment. It's not like you're getting really much of a discount. I mean, Chase Brown, 5K, Moss, 5,800. It'd be a different story if they're like 4,500, 4,800, but they're not. And they're going to be splitting work, as has been reported. So I don't think we have to fool with that. It's just, I don't love the game environment. There's so many other games that we can go to.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And yes, it's actually a 4-man booth for the ones who are correcting me. DC or Mangone isn't DC the third. Yes, they are actually going to both be on it if the calendar is correct. So that's perfect. Vincent Cano, no Jalen Polk. And the reason for that is I think when I look at this slate, if I'm only running, let's just assume that you're only running like 20 teams. Polk's a fine play at 3.9. Like on any other slate, I'd be like, he's all right. But I'm not touching this Patriots team. I got 23 other way better teams and way better spots. And I'm going to go with them. And that includes the Carolina Panthers and stuff like that. I just don't want to fiddle with this Patriots team. That offensive line is so bad. This is my favorite point. I get to talk about best ball because it's week 1. I'm really hoping for a Yoshi big day. He's one of my most highest owned wide receivers in best ball. Wow. I think we get it. I mean, if I would be tempted to hit the lock button, Drew. When you said he's under owned at 50%, I might hit the lock button on Yosavas. But Kurt, in the lineups I don't have him, I'd probably hunt the leverage play with like a guy like Jones or Irwin.
I just think people like in the Millie Maker, they get too concerned with just jamming in 1%ers everywhere, and you don't have to do that. Like some of these guys they're not going to fail very often in that type of spot. So you might as well just play them. It's the same with the running back, and wide receivers, I guess, get a little bit different and week 1, but that's my take on it. Like some of those, man, you just plug them in and just figure it out from there.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and move on to an indoor game, which is not really a huge concern in the month of September, but we get to go with maybe one of the best offenses in football this year, the Houston Texans, taking on the Indianapolis Colts. And when the salaries came in about a month ago, I immediately looked at the slate and said, that's the quarterback I'm playing. No, it's not CJ Stroud. It's Anthony Richardson at 6,300, a very cheap tag. Michael Pittman does seem to be a very popular stacking option with him. And then you also have Jonathan Taylor at about 13% ownership, according to Sabre. When you look at this game here, Kurt, I don't love it outside of Richardson. I mean, I can get on board with Jonathan Taylor, but I really don't want to target the Indianapolis Colts wide receivers unless it's A.D. Mitchell. And then on the Texans side of the ball, this is going to be a team that's probably very popular for the Millie this season, Kurt. Are you going to be double stacking like Stroud at all with like maybe a Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs? Or is this more of a week to only do one, not really invest $20K into a wide receiving room and a quarterback, or $24K, I should say, with the pricing the way it is?
I will be, and I think it's just ownership based. Stroud's coming in, like the sack's coming in super low owned. Like I'm not a Diggs guy. I am not a Diggs guy whatsoever. But I mean, first game, maybe they try to get more looks to him. The combination is extremely low owned. I love this game environment actually. So I'm going to stack him many different ways. Dell's what's Dell's ownership? He's the highest, right?
He is the lowest at 4.76%. Diggs is projected at 8, and Collins is projected at 10.
I'm not sure about that.
I think Dell, 5,500.
Dell's going to be higher. Diggs is going to get squeezed. Collins will be the safer. Diggs will be the lower.
I agree.
I think Diggs will be 5% owned.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Yeah, it's just the stacking guys with Stroud. I loved how they started the season last year. I think they play fast. I think they play efficient. The guy's a stud. Obviously, it was much different when he was a lot more cheaper, but still, now we have the ownership. We'll pay the price for the lower ownership. I do like the second. I like the game environment. I don't know what to do with Anthony Richardson. I can't believe one play in the preseason is living, actually 2 series in the preseason are living so deep in my head, but they are, and it's killing me. So I guess I'm going to have to see it first until I start trusting the receivers too, because I want to play Mitchell. That's a fun new toy. I don't want to play Jonathan Taylor with Richardson. Yeah. So I'll wait and see approach on the passing game that I want to be bullish on for the rest of the year.
So as someone who was at that preseason game, because again, I had nothing better to do on that Thursday night, Richardson looked really good on that first drive. Yeah. And who looked even better than Richardson? A.D. Mitchell looks like he belongs. Drew, I don't think we're going to need to play a ton of cheap wide receivers. We already talked about a 3K min with, Yosefas, who we're probably going to be locking a little bit. A.D. Mitchell, though, at 3,800. And if you're telling me, 7% ownership, and that's the thing, I think his ownership does get a little inflated because Richardson's very popular. I'm going to throw this question at you. Is Richardson playable naked in the Millie Maker? Especially the $5 with such a large field.
I was just looking actually to see, and I have him paired with Pittman in every lineup that I have Richardson. Not many with Pittman and Taylor because they kind of are negatively correlated a little bit, but Pittman with Richardson in every single lineup. So if Richardson goes off, it's most likely through Pittman is the way I kind of read it. So no, I don't think so. Now I will say, I was looking at this earlier and I was thinking through like just the size of that contest. And I've heard this from a lot of sharp people talk through it, but like, the bigger the field gets, like the more, like the less correlation you actually need to like actually hit the nuts. So like most of my stacks are just like one QB or a QB with one wide receiver. So instead of like stacking up like Miami 3 different ways. So most of my stacks are going to be like Richardson with just Pittman, or we'll go look at New Orleans or something like that. So just keep that in mind as you look at like the huge fields. You'll even see Sabersim settings. They'll kind of move you away from too much correlation in that aspect. So yeah, from this game though, I do like both sides quite a bit. Houston's a little bit lower, which is surprising, I think, just from a price standpoint and an ownership standpoint, because their total looks pretty good. But Indianapolis, Richardson, and Pittman are my 2 highest exposures as of now. And then as we go down, I think everything I have with CJ Stroud has Stephon Diggs in that same aspect of stacking with the likely top performing wide receiver. So like, again, if Stroud can have a good game without him, but likely if he goes off on his feet and in the air, it's probably going to be with Diggs. So I want both pieces. But I have a lot of this game, to be honest, man. I could go down the list of playing different game scripts. I got Pittman with Richardson. I got Mixon by himself. Nico Collins with CJ Stroud. Tank Dell's in there. I just think the game environment, you're probably going to want some pieces of this game.
Yeah, with a total of, what was it, 50 right now, right? Is that
59, right? Or 49, I'm sorry.
49, so it's going to be hovering right around there the entire time. Like, that's a lot. especially early in the season where we don't know, a ton about these teams. The one thing that we did see in the preseason, though, was that Texans was just lights out. CJ Stroud is ready for the season to begin. It's interesting that you said Diggs because he was like a guy where, I agree with Kurt. I think he does get squeezed a little bit in terms of ownership. I do think Dell comes in above him, and I do think Nico does too. So 6,700 would be a decent, not quite like, huge leverage situation because it's not like they're mega chalk or anything like that, but it is, enough leverage to kind of, if you're going to be stacking Stroud. And I really like what you said there about the $5, especially one with, what is it, almost like 900,000 entries or something like that? Or a million
I think
entries.
FanDuel's the same way, dude. It's crazy.
So, yeah, you're going to need some luck. And it's really interesting that you brought that up. You don't need as much correlation. You don't really want as much correlation because, maybe the field's doing that or whatever. And you just want that one quarterback and wide receiver to hit like 4 times together and try and separate the field that way. Instead of playing, 900,000 man contest, you're probably playing, a 20,000 man contest if that nut hits. So it makes sense. Like when you zoom out like a little bit.
Well, it's like, the easiest comp is like baseball. Like if you had a 1 million person contest in baseball, you're not doing 5-3 stacks. You're literally trying to hit all the guys that hit 2 homers that day. If you're trying to beat 1 million people. So just trying to think through like what type of contest you're playing and what type of lineups win those contests. So like that $5, dude, you're trying to hit the nuts in every single position pretty much.
Yeah, that's perfect. I really like how that's well put. I'm with you guys. I do like this game decent bit. Mixon, someone where it's like he's going to get all the work. I saw that way Chris Ostro, had a good one. Mixon, a decent play. I don't mind it. He is a workhorse. Running back does feel like slightly less, I would say, convincing than wide receiver without a doubt. So if you did want to go Mixon, I would almost be on board with that, especially even if he's your only play from that game. Like what if they get down to the goal line a couple times? There's a lot of paths for him. Let's go ahead and move on to an Arthur Smith revenge game. So the Pittsburgh Steelers take on the Atlanta Falcons. And if you haven't heard, Russell Wilson, I was about to say Westbrook, is out for this one. Justin Fields is going to take the reins as a starter at $5K. All right, Drew, I'm going to start with you here. As someone who drafted a ton of Justin Fields in best ball, hoping for this moment to happen at one point in the season, I did not expect it to be in week 1. But it is Justin Fields at $5K, and in the preseason, he was running a lot. What do we do with a guy like that with a lot of talent? Who honestly, if he was priced correctly, you'd expect him to be priced near guys like Richardson at 6'3 or 6'5. But instead, we get $5K. Is that a value that you're going to be after, or are you just going to stay away from the Steelers with a 10-foot pole?
No, I mean I'm gonna definitely have some. I like the price, and I like Fields' game. He won like 3 milli makers in a row last season or the season before. So Fields with Pickens is pretty much the stack. But yeah, I don't think the ownership is right, obviously. But yeah, I think Fields with Pickens is probably the route that I'm going to go. But I do like the Atlanta side quite a bit more. But Fields, I'm with you with the best ball too. There's a couple guys. I know the first question was about Polk. Like there's plenty of guys that I have exposure for best ball, and doesn't mean they're a great play every single week. But still hoping that they do. It's kind of like a little bit of a backup leverage spot I could take. But yeah, I think Fields 5K, his running upside, and I don't know, man. This could be like one of those totals that shoots way under. I know Kurt's all about getting the unders right, and this could be one of those. You don't get them always right, but it's okay. We'll get them right one way or another. So I don't know, man. I attack Atlanta quite a bit, and Pitt obviously let us down quite a lot last year too. So I think Fields in a vacuum is a fantastic play. What he can do with the rest of the offensive line remains to be determined. So my preference here is just targeting Atlanta. They run fast, they play fast. So I like Kyle Pitts and Drake London. We'll do that, and that's about it.
So you're less so on Bijan then at 7,700. You'd rather attack the receiving core here for the Falcons?
Yeah, especially with the totals of the game. If it even gets to that, that's my path basically. Yeah, I mean, unless he just gets down to like the 2-yard line and dumps it in, then I just lose that way. But otherwise, if they're going to play fast, look for 10 plus receptions and some good yardage.
Yeah, it's like one of those things too, where it's like you look at this, like if you zoom out, all right, there's no CMC on it. There's no Saquon, for example. There's no Derrick Henry. Not that we have to really worry about him as much this year. But there's not a ton of running backs to spend up on. And Bijan is actually the second most expensive this week. And he is projected for about 22% ownership. He's going to have a good floor on DraftKings just because I think he outside shot of being the leading receiver in backs this year. I think it would take a little CMC time missed for that to happen. But Bijan definitely will be one of those up there. But yeah, I'm with you. Talking about London and Pitts. If I do go Fields, I'd like to mention that we had Freiermuth in here. I could like do something like that where it's like super low, and I don't expect Freiermuth to come in with much ownership. But really, it's debatable, Drew.
Do you want to go naked with Fields?
I might. So here's my thing, and it's the $5 milli is the focus of the show. It's the milli round.
Yeah.
Like I play a main team every single week, and I am going to be staring at Justin Fields at 5K a ton. And that's just the main team talk because I think you're right. 3% under. It's going to be closer to 10. I think. Yeah. I think it's definitely going to be steamed up as we get closer to lock. That's one I'm going to have to sleep on a little bit because I really like Fields. I think he can get it done naked. But you were talking about it is still important to at least get one stack, especially if you're looking to bank a 900,000 person contest.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Kurt, tell me about this game. I completely missed a revenge narrative for you here, and that revenge narrative is Ray McLeod Jr. The third. He is 3K.
Get that right, the third.
Yeah, the third. He is. So the one thing that's great about Atlanta, Raheem is it Raheem Morris who's the coach there now, right? I would assume. Yeah, Raheem Morris. Yeah, is the coach there. Sean McVay disciple. They did run 3 wide receivers out there every time. Ray McLeod is the guy who's going to be out there. I circled him before the Yosevas news, so this is probably irrelevant now, Kurt. But I did have make a mention of some 3K wide receivers, and Yosevas being a lock basically kind of ruins that. But when you look at Atlanta, are you kind of similar to Drew, where you're targeting this wide receiver core a little bit, or maybe you have more interest in Fields, maybe more interest in stacking him up?
Actually, I'm gonna go. The Fields thing is tough for me. I'm a Fields guy, and I'm scared to death. But also, I would like to play him with a Big Pat, but we really can't because it's Arthur Smith, and he likes to do 3 tight ends, and like the preseason and snaps were all messed up. And I would love to do Fields. I think Fields likes throwing to his tight ends, but oh God, I forgot about Patterson. Yeah, that's the true revenge spot. That's tilting. That's why I'm not going to be targeting any Steelers running backs all season for sure. Don't do that. But it's Fields. It's Big John Robinson for me if I'm spinning up at running back easily. I probably do want to get overweight on one of these pass catchers with Cousins. Maybe it's like a little run back with Fields, like play Fields naked and then one Falcons pass catcher or some shit, and then find 2 different games to stack up. But I don't know if I can't do Fields and Pitts together. That's just 2 guys that are breaking my heart way too many times. So, but I do like Cousins' ability to carry wide receiver ones. I'm very high on Drake London and this offense coming into the season. I think Drake London has a breakout year. Drake London play this game for me.
I like it. I think we're all in the same boat, or me and you especially, Kurt, about Fields, where it's just mentally excruciating on a week 1 slate where there's a lot of misprices. We've already talked about a few, but 5K Fields just open up the world, especially for a main team. If I did play him in my main team, it will be naked. If I am playing him in the milli, I'd probably stack him up. And that's the $5 milli specifically there. So single entries and stuff, it's fine. This is where the difference in contests that we're talking about. 900,000 people you got to beat. Make sure that you can get the nuts with it. Fields would have to rush 3 in basically for any of these guys to not be relevant on that end. But I'm with you. The Steelers backfield is just a devil that cannot be tamed right now. You can draft him for best ball. That's great. But as far as an actual season goes, Cordero Patterson.
My bad, brother.
Are you good? No, go.
People are talking about, are we worried about Cousins? Are we worried about Cousins? Guys, he sits in the pocket and throws. He ain't going around running. His arm's fine. It's his Achilles. I mean, you can still maneuver. If he can't maneuver the pocket the little amount that he needs to, they wouldn't fucking clear his ass. It's fucking Kirk Cousins. We're not talking about Justin Fields here. If he couldn't move the pocket, he wouldn't be active. So, no, I don't think we should be worried about Cousins. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't say it's his first game back, too, because they've had a lot of live reps and stuff. They did bring him on a little bit slowly. So I don't think those reps are going to be an issue at all, in terms of passing. I think it's
malpractice. If they bring him out there and he can't maneuver the pocket on a key, that's malpractice, right? That's very bad on their part.
It's there's not much of a difference between handing the ball off. You're still taking steps. You're still being prone to hit than it is passing the ball, too. So, all right. Let's move on to the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Buffalo Bills. And I have a theory this year, Kurt. And my theory is a lot of Bills games go under to start the year. And that is because of how much they wanted to run the ball over the last bit of last season. They almost took the game too much out of Josh Allen's hands last year. And I didn't really like that. And that ultimately led to their downfall in the playoffs. They got some great plays, though. Don't get me wrong. Like I look at these, you're gonna have Dalton Kincaid, 12% ownership. James Cook, James Cook beats me at double-digit ownership at any point in this season. I'm going to be okay with that. Is a play I will stay away at double-digit ownership all the time. But really, like Josh Allen's not coming in at too much. Khalil Shakir looks like he's going to be wide receiver 1 at least to start out. Keon Coleman's a rookie there, where he's even a little bit pricey. Then we flip over to the Arizona Cardinals side of the ball too. There's not a ton of ownership in this game, despite there being a healthy total here, Kurt. Is this a game where you're looking at and being like, you know what, I can play a few guys, or is this overall, kind of make one play on and move on?
I really hope that your theory isn't correct, because I kind of like this game. I really like Kyler. I really like playing James Conner. I like McBride. I like playing one of the pass catchers on the Bills, whether it's Kincaid, whether it's Shakir. I actually kind of like this. I don't want to go crazy, but I like Connor as the run back with Allen and like Shakir. I like Kyler, McBride, and then maybe one pass catcher for the Bills, like Kincaid. I actually really like this game, but it's really just those guys. Like maybe Greg Dortch and Will. Like, how much is Wilson? Yeah, I mean Greg Dortch is 3,900, so you also got another cheap guy there. But
this is also a Buffalo team that stacks the box the least in the NFL in 2023. So, this is where my theory kind of goes, Kurt. They want to run the ball more, and they also invite opponents to run against them, which I think is a fine strategy and stuff. But I do fear that there's going to be a lot of games where you're just like, man, the Bills game's already in the middle of the third quarter, and all these games just like are getting out of halftime. That's my thinking here for this year, too. And this is why I'm going to be a little bit light on this game overall. It's just I think these games are going to move fast, especially on the Bills side, if they get up early. I think there's almost a sense of treating Josh Allen almost like what we saw with Lamar, like with the Greg Roman being the offense coordinator stuff, where they would just kill teams and then they would just sit on the ball a lot. And I think we're going to see a little bit of that here too. So, Drew, I'm going to go to you here. Are you with Kurt or are you with me in terms of this game? Are you over or under on it?
I'm under overall. It's really just two scripts. I honestly don't have a ton of Arizona, which is surprising because they're so low owned. But it probably has to do with like the 99th percentile outcomes that I'm looking at. But the main pieces, like it's basically just two game scripts that allow me to play this game. It's not a super high exposure. So it's Dalton Kincaid with Josh Allen. So playing Josh Allen for his upside, and Dalton Kincaid doesn't eat into too much salary, and there's plenty of other salary savings on the slate. The other one is James Cook. So if James Cook takes away the TD equity from Josh Allen, there's your score. You can't play them both. Those are kind of my two takes on this game. It could be a shootout. I mean, honestly, Kyler Murray, he's done it before. I want to have a little bit more exposure than I do currently. I think I have him in like 2 lineups, so I might look at that. But otherwise, I think the way the game should set up, I mean, I agree with you. Like they never really did much in like the high totals last year. They never really put up like Miami type scores from a fantasy perspective, but those are really my two angles on this game. I want to have a little bit of Josh Allen, pairing him with Dalton Kincaid every single time, or I'll play James Cook in those lineups. And it's probably like, 10% of teams.
Yeah, I like that. Greg Dortch, I saw his name. He's been a training camp standout and stuff. You're paying $3,900, which isn't like the most impressive thing in the world, right? Like I just find it. I don't know. I don't love it. I'd rather have like a chance in taking an elite talent like Marvin Harrison Jr. at 7,200 if I wanted to attack this game from the Arizona side of the ball. And then here's my fun fact here. Outside of the Kansas City game, which was in the playoffs, the no Bills game went into the 50s after their bye week in week 13. And that was with, very good spots. The Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Chargers, the Patriots, the Dolphins. Like I said, that's my big take for this year is that the Bills unders hit earlier on. We'll see if that happens. If not, Kurt, you can take a victory lap. And if you guys are wondering where the usual Mitch Snyder is? Well, he is cheering on his Nebraska Cornhuskers, who are up 28-0 against Colorado right now. So he did go, he on a Saturday night, he somehow left us, had fun at a football game. How dare he? But he is, the Nebraska Cornhuskers are up 28 at halftime here. So he'll come back in a happy mood next week. That is for sure. Minnesota Vikings and the New York Giants here. Malik Neighbors. Wow. I did not expect to see 16% ownership for him. That's actually a little bit higher than I would have thought. Justin Jefferson is the only other guy who is expected to get double-digit ownership in this game. So, Drew, last year, every year it seems, especially the last 2 years, the Vikings have always had a pretty bad offense, or defense, not offense. Last year they were in the top 10 in terms of yards allowed in the pass game, so they gave up a lot of passing yards. I think they were around the Houston Texans in terms of 234 yards per game through the air. Well, the good news for them, they're facing Daniel Jones. Is this a game that you're targeting much at all, or are you going to kind of stay away as Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones are going to potentially shoot out here?
Yeah. Sam Darnold. That's probably the big issue in this game for me. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's projection looks pretty good. His ownership looks pretty good. I don't trust Sam Darnold in this spot. I think Malik Neighbors is probably the one-off that I'll play a good bit in this game at 6K or 5,900. I think that makes a good bit of sense. If you look through his props are pretty appetizing. So I think that's why his ownership is so high. And it's a decent total. It's 42 or so. It's not the worst total in the world, but this game is not a stackable game for me, at least. I'm going to play, a few Daniel Jones stacks, but mostly I'm going to play Malik Neighbors as a one-off and Aaron Jones as a one-off. And that's pretty much it. I'm just looking through my exposures. Yeah, even Aaron Jones is in like 2 lineups, but it's mostly Malik Neighbors. Otherwise, this kind of is a cross-off for me, to be honest. I don't trust Sam Darnold to put much money in my pocket.
I think the case for him is obviously the coaching staff putting him in a position to win, like they did with like Nick Mullins and stuff, or Nick Mullins threw for a bunch of yards, right? It doesn't really matter who's back there, and that's not a diss on like a guy like Kirk Cousins or anything like that. They can still get yards, and the biggest thing for Justin Jefferson is all this salary popping up and nowhere to really spend it. So I can see Jefferson's ownership really swelling up, and that makes a lot of sense. And when you're looking at that, I know Aaron Jones being mentioned. A healthy Aaron Jones is still a force. Like, he is still really good when he is healthy. And last year, he wasn't really healthy until the end of the year. And you saw what he did against the Cowboys. You saw what he did against the 49ers. I don't mind that as a leverage play. I do think he splits with Chandler quite a bit. But we're looking at guys who are under 10% owned who can make a big difference. I like that. I like that being announced in the chat there. Malik Neighbors. Yes, Richie Smalls. We'll get that. We'll get that. Kurt, talk to me about this game here.
It's Malik. No, that's funny. But speaking of Malik Neighbors, last year in the preseason, we were all excited for who's the guy that retired? Waller? Yeah, how Jones and Waller were awesome in the preseason. And then they did nothing in the regular season. A little bit of opposite effect. Malik Neighbors didn't do shit for me in the preseason when I played him. Maybe he goes off in the regular season. I don't know. My favorite play from this game, it's only a one-off. All these guys are one-off, as Jefferson will be too. But Devin Singletary, they're jerking him off, talking about how he's going to get a massive workload. He just feels like a wacky, weird play that's going to end up in the milli optimal somehow. Just so random. He scores 2 touchdowns, gets 80 yards. It's just enough. The running backs all kind of suck. He maybe gets 3 catches for 20 yards. I could see that being a wacky milli optimal tomorrow.
Who was it? Who?
Devin Singletary.
Oh, Singletary. Yeah.
They talk about him wanting to run him into the ground. If the game stays close, who said he doesn't get 85% of the snaps and just gets there off volume?
Yeah.
Malik Neighbors draws a PI, gets to the 1. Devin Singletary runs it in. Devin Singletary, 10-yard screen, touchdown. Just weird shit like that is going to be getting that much volume.
My thing with that, my counterpoint is I do think the running back too, whether it's Tracy or Gray, I think it's going to be Tracy more so in passing.
So do you think he's just contradicting himself, like on the
press conference? I don't call him a liar, but I do.
You're calling him a liar, Rubio. That's what you're calling him.
I think they get involved a little bit more because I want to pull up the Coach Speak Index. That guy has a Patreon too and stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure they said they want like a good running back too who's going to play a decent bit and stuff. This was early on in training camp, so. But yeah, like anyone else in this game too while I pull that up?
They're talking about Munn starting tight end for the Vikings now. Darnold sucks, so maybe you might throw a couple to Munn. I don't mind that play.
I mind that play. Don't play Munn. No.
We don't really need the salary, but I guess I don't know. If you find yourself needing a salary, if you think tight end sucks, I kind of find myself wanting to pay up a tight end tomorrow.
I don't mind that, but we're also going to get into the best tight end punt of the slate here in the next game. So I don't waste it on Munn.
Sanders? Hill? Is it Taysom?
No, it's the other team. It's
Sanders.
Yeah. The one where we had a show about
Month outscoring Sanders.
It's
I get it. I'm sorry.
Jatavion Sanders. The one that guy came into the chat and said this guy was acting like Jatavion Sanders with Travis Kelce in that slate. And he got 0 points.
He's still the winner.
If you did need a 2,500 tight end, we're going to move on to the Panthers and Saints. There is a 2,500 starting tight end, Jatavion Sanders. So Tommy Tremble and Ian Thomas are out. That is actually going to lead to a lot of Jatavion Sanders work. I bet it yesterday, and it's Jatavion Sanders prop of receiving, which is 16.5. I think that is super soft. He is the starting tight end. It has already been announced. He has also changed his name to number 0. Number. He changed his number to number 0. So I really like Jatavion Sanders' props. I don't think you really need a 2,500 tight end here. But this game overall, gross. I mean, what I think I'm the tail end of this generation, but this game gives me the ick. Chuba Hubbard is 20% at 5,300. It's fine.
I'm just gonna. That can't be right.
That's what Saber's saying.
I know they are. I'm just saying. I'll take the under for a decent amount.
I think I would take the under at 53. 20% of clicking Chuba Hubbard's name in a 19-point team total, I would be shocked.
If the total was flipped, maybe, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, he's going to get more work than Miles Sanders. This game has 4 guys in double-digit ownership. Actually, almost 5 if you include Jatavion at 9%. The most chalk, though, is Alvin Kamara at 6,700 with a very healthy projection. You look at the backfield there. What is it? Jamal Williams behind him, and they don't really want to use him a ton. Carr doesn't really check down a lot, but that one's interesting to me, too. That still seems high. I think just overall this game's ownership seems very high. We also have Chris Olave, who I really like this year, 15%. Deontay Johnson at 12%. Kurt, you're starting this one off. How much interest do you have in this Panthers-Saints game?
All right. For those of you who don't know, Dave Canales is the new coach for the Carolina Panthers. Dave Canales made Geno Smith look amazing when he was in Seattle. Dave Canales resurrected Baker Mayfield's career. And the passing game last year for the Bucs, pretty good. Passing game for the Seahawks 2 years ago. He had a part of that. Looked pretty damn good, and it looked terrible last year. So I'm not excited for what the Bucs look like this year, but I have some faith. I want to be bullish on this Carolina passing game. I like look. We're talking Millie Roundtable. I like Bryce Young, Deontay Johnson stacks. You can run it back with Alvin Kamara. I am just buying in Dave Canales. He's done it with Geno freaking Smith. He did it with Baker Mayfield. Why can he not do it with Bryce Young, who had all the talent in the world? Why not?
Tell him, Kurt. Tell him.
I'm a believer in Dave Canales, man. Let's go. So
as someone who is in our Discord with a Carolina Panther avatar, I agree with you. I agree wholeheartedly with you. Yeah, you haven't noticed? It's Miles Sanders.
Oh, God.
So for those who don't know, I have a lot of Miles Sanders in best ball, hoping he'd be cut from the Panthers or traded with Brooks going on.
Instead,
that's a little bit late.
You have Dave Canales talking him up.
Dave Canales is talking up Miles Sanders. But I'm with you. I do think there's a lot of reasons to be bullish on the Panthers this year. And why not do it in week 1 where there is – I don't think that Chuba is going to be 20%. I don't think Deontay is going to be 12%. I think a lot of people are going to look at the Panthers and just be throwing them away. I would say about 2/3 of that, like 2/3 of the percentage that Saber is suggesting. So, Drew, when I look at Chuba, like I would assume 14. When I look at Deontay, 8. When I look at Jatavion, 6, right? Just kind of slash that by, 33%. Do you have interest? I think Kamara is the big one that we got to talk about. Kamara and Olave, because both those guys project quite a bit. That's a decent team total. Was around 23, 24. It's not bad. I just don't love it at 6,700. I kind of like Olave more straight up over Kamara, but even then, like these ownerships feel inflated. I feel like I can just play like the Bears in the next game or the Jaguars are going to have lower ownership than that, And this is just guys, teams with similar team totals.
Olave's ownership's not terrible. I think Kamara's ownership's inflated just because of the position scarcity at his price and with his projection. I do think either one are good plays by themselves. Again, it depends on what the rest of your lineup looks like. But I like Kamara and Olave together, or just in this game. So I'll be playing both. I'm not too concerned with the ownership. I think overall this ownership in this game looks a little silly because like even if you cut the ownership for Chubb and then Deontay, like it still doesn't make sense that Bryce Young would be 1% and Deontay would be 8%, whatever we could guess, right? So if that is the case though, if Bryce Young is going to be 2% or 1%, then sure, I'll take the Atlanta side or the Carolina side to take a shot on some of those upside plays with Deontay and Bryce Young. But otherwise, I think the one-offs are going to be Kamara as a filler or Olave even as a filler. I honestly I'm not too concerned with the ownership. There's plenty of other spots to get weird. Yeah, I mean, I guess I disagree I agree with the ownership being wrong, but I disagree. Like if Kamara is 30% owned, I still would probably play him at the running back spot with a 20-point projection or so.
Oh yeah, fair enough here. As Kurt is finishing up some Magic cereal, we'll move on to the next game here.
Did he get Lucky Charms?
That had to be no. It's like there's no. What is it? You're on mute, Kurt. You got to explain this Magic cereal bullshit. No, you're still on mute. You're still on
Magic.
I didn't mute me. That's you, asshole. I didn't mute myself.
I didn't do anything.
I didn't touch it.
I'm trying to justify Kamara's 30% ownership.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not on Magic Spoon anymore. Too many ingredients. I'm on Catalina Crunch. Has a lot of more protein, and it's more healthier, like less ingredients and stuff. But I'm actually just eating some walnuts right now. I'm struggling to stay awake, so I need some energy.
Perfect. Yes, this is way past your bedtime, and I'm going to keep you up a little bit further than I thought. We still got 6 games to get to. I'm trying my best here, guys.
Look, I'm so bullish on these next 2 teams too. Like as much as I am about Carolina, I got as much enthusiasm for these next 2 games. So, Drew, you better not let me down here.
So, Drew, I was gonna start with you here, Drew, on the Titans Bears, but
give it to me. Give it to me.
Well, my highest exposures in this game is going to be defense, so it might be.
Oh baby! You can wait, buddy. You can wait. Timeout. You can get the next 2 or 3.
All right. Tell me about this game, man.
Okay, look, guys. Let me take you back to last year. You guys remember Jake Browning? We thought he'd be out of the league last preseason. What do we think, Rubio? He's out of the league. He's done. He sucks.
He did suck.
All of a sudden, he had to start the last 2 or 3 games, and this motherfucker's throwing for 350 yards. What happened? Did he all of a sudden get good? No. Brian Callahan was calling the shots. Brian Callahan was making this fucking player a fucking ball player, okay? Brian Callahan in Tennessee now. He's got Will Levis. He's got Calvin Ridley. He's got Hopkins. He's got Chika Kongwu from Maryland. Got Tyler, the corpse of Tyler Boyd there, who maybe he can do something. Tony Pollard, Tajee Spears. Bill Callahan is going to have this Titans offense revolutionized from the archaic Derrick Henry bullshit we've been watching. I think they're going to be able to move the ball. They're going to be able to pass the ball. I want to be bullish on them. I want to be early on them. Will Levis, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, sprinkle a little bit of them all. Don't go crazy. You don't need like a 4-man stack. But I think 2 and 3 are definitely live here. And I think this game has shootout potential. Like people are going to look at the Panthers and be like, ugh, Panthers, they suck. People are going to look at Titans and be like, ugh, no, their offense archaic. One of these teams is going to score a lot of points tomorrow and surprise a lot of people. And I'm going to be taking shots on both of them. And I think Chicago, Caleb's a very competent quarterback. Obviously, he can go right back at it and keep the game going. I like this game.
So, yeah, Brian Callahan is the head coach of the Tennessee Titans here. That is very good to note. They have changed their systems, and we are going to see a 50-50 split in the backfield. We are going to see potentially, it's going to be Calvin Ridley leading that wide receiver room with DeAndre Hopkins by his side. And like you said, I think Tyler Boyd is there more for, moral support in the locker room, leadership, I should say, not moral support. The thing with tight end, I do think that they're going to split tight end right down the middle. I think Josh Wiley and Chig Okonkwo are actually going to split a lot more than people think. So it does become a tougher thing to stack. And I know I do get being bullish on Will Levis here. I don't hate that at all. But at the same time, it's like you're kind of down to just Ridley or Hopkins if you really want to stack with it. But we did establish earlier on the show, you only really need one in the $5, right? Like you don't need a double stack in the $5. And like you said, Drew, just kind of bring people back who might be joining midway through. It's more optimal to not overstack in these the larger the field is, right? Like if it's 900,000 entries, it's actually best to only do like one stack with it rather than two. So yeah, I think that would be your path, right, Kurt? And then when you flip it over to the Bears side of the ball, you still have a lot of options. My thing with Swift this year, I think people are completely underestimating how big of a role Roschon Johnson is going to take away from him. And that's not even including Khalil Herbert. So this also becomes a room where you're guessing at wide receiver more so. And this is why, Drew, when you said it, my highest ownerships are going to be defense in this game. Well, I'm kind of with you there. The Bears defense, 8%. The Titans defense is 1% against a rookie quarterback, even though the rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams, is at home and a great talent. Are you on board with anything that Kurt said there? I get his case. I'm
trying to this year. It's tough with certain sports to like have good portfolio management of trying to play different scripts, especially with like a 12-game slate. This is one of those where I don't have a ton of exposure to either side, and I kind of cover the two outcomes that I think could happen. It's a defensive game, so I have a lot of Bears. I also have the Tennessee side with Levis, DeAndre Hopkins, that they could just outperform their ownership and their projection. So I have both sides. Both are going to be, sub 10% exposure for me, but that's the kind of the path I'm going to take. So trying to think through, which way these games can go. That's basically the way. I do like the Levis side. I agree with Kurt there. It's not going to be like a crazy, 40% owned punt with Levis and DeAndre Hopkins, but I'm also going to take the Chicago defense side and assume if, Will Levis doesn't get there, there's some turnovers and there's some bad passes. We can get some points from a defense that's still, pretty cheap considering what they put up last year at 3,400.
Can I say one more thing, Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
So I do have more of like a full season outlook. I'm still going to be taking shots on this already, but I also think Chicago's defense is going to be really good this year. So maybe like someone said, this isn't the week. It's in Chicago. Maybe it is when they go back to Tennessee. I agree with that. I'm still going to take my shots because I am bullish and I don't want to be late.
Don't be late.
Yeah, exactly. But I do want to say my outlook is more so full season, best ball stuff. There's going to come a time, and it really is a tough situation because I saw how well the entire Bears played in preseason, the starters, backups. So I think it's going to be a really good defense. So maybe it's a bad time. Can't help it. I'm going to do it anyways. All right.
Yeah, and the biggest reason for that too, Jalen Johnson being one of the best corners and stuff like that too. So it's like if you're not really bullish on like Hopkins and stuff, and then you're looking at a split tight end room, you're looking at a split running back room, like it does become hard to buy. I do think, like you said though, don't be late, right? You want to be early on this team. I think waiting till the next week is probably
their best games were in this type of environment, like a +5 spread last year. If you think back through like into the playoffs, their best games were going. They were dogs and they had to keep up.
I like it. And
so even with turnovers, dude, like Levis is going to get the ball back. You never know. I mean, there's a path where Levis gets there, even if it's a messy game and Chicago wins.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm with you guys there. So let's go ahead and move on to the battle, the Florida Derby. That is the Jacksonville Jaguars heading into Miami. So, Drew, I am looking at Tyreek Hill, who I am astounded is only projected for 18% ownership. I think this really balloons up. Maybe it's just like all this news not hitting, like if Chase sits and stuff, but I had nowhere to spend. And my first click was Tyreek Hill. Are people forgetting how good he is? 18% feels really low. ETN's going to be fine at 7,200. He's going to be the workhorse there. They don't trust Tank Bigsby. He's projected for around 10%. Christian Kirk coming back off, groin injury or something like that, 10%. A-Chain, 6,800, 8% ownership despite not being the lead back. Is this Tyreek and Waddle? Is this a chance to get Tua sub 5% and maybe just kind of hope they put up a big number? Or is this kind of maybe a one-off or maybe a couple guys and then move on?
I'll probably take the one-off side. I think the stacking side would be on Jacksonville. But I think from a Miami side, it's Tyreek Hill with his price. That's probably the path that I would go is plugging in Tyreek Hill as a one-off and he goes for 40 points or something like that. Jalen Waddle as a one-off is totally fine too. I wouldn't pair them together. Then it still goes down to A-Chain trying to figure out if he's going to get 2 tutties when he's at 2-yard line or something like that. So I have a couple one-offs there, just sprinkles. But I think really the main play here is Tyreek Hill. And to your point on ownership, so like I try to do more research and understanding of how Sabre kind of generates some of these numbers. And like the way they do the ownership is kind of building out fields of lineups, as most of us already know. But they take the ownership from those fields. So my assumption is at 8,700 with his projection, he just kind of fits as like a decent value. It's not like popping off the screen. It's not a CMC with a 25-point projection. He's just fitting into some lineups as one-offs. And I think that's where his ownership projection comes in. So I'm with you. I think it will go higher when, people start building and they see they have salary left to spend. But that's just an aside of where some of those ownerships feel like they're wrong. It's just because they're generating field lineups and sometimes the projection isn't high enough. If you bump it up, it'll probably boost that ownership for you. So I think it's one-offs, Tyreek Hill. And then Jacksonville, like I said, I'm going to take the full side on Jacksonville. I'll take Trevor Lawrence, which I have a decent couple of teams in best ball as well. So hate to keep touting best ball, but the Jacksonville and Philadelphia stacks looking pretty good. Hopefully they make it. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram, and then some with ATN. And that's pretty much it. So it's really just Hill and then Jacksonville stacks is kind of the way I'm looking at it.
So I actually, especially for college football and stuff, I've started to do my own field lineups and then building the sims against that. It's like the contest sims. So that's a really good point too, where if for those with Sabre, for those, who have an RPS subscription and potentially just the ultimate, or not even the ultimate, I don't think you need that. You can just run whatever pool size that you want, or the maximum pool size that you want. Maybe if you're like, I'm going to bump Tyreek Hill and see how much he hits then, to a more, maybe a projection in the low 20s and stuff. And then, like you said, that's a great point there. I like that. Kurt, Tyreek Hill, speak to me. 8,700. What's the move?
Yeah, not much needs to be said. You play Tua and Tyreek early on in the season. It's a great game environment. Tua, Tyreek, bring back with Christian Kirk. I like Christian Kirk's price a lot. Evan Ingram too, but Evan Ingram just feels like he's going to break my heart tomorrow. So it's really just those guys. I mean, we have an unlimited salary, so Tyreek will get his 20. You kind of just move on. But the Trevor Kirk stack, bring back Hill, is also very in play. I don't mind that, but it's pretty obvious stuff here. Nothing different out of the ordinary.
So, I mean, it's worth noting. I mean, to kind of build on that, Ingram was Trevor Lawrence's dog in the red zone, especially for that preseason game. He kept giving him a couple looks. He had 2 touchdowns in that one game. Mm-hmm. You can easily build out stacks here. This is a 50-point team total. I don't want to completely neglect it. You do that Lawrence stack with Kirk or Ingram, and then run it back with Hill, and you got a great stack there. Might be a little popular, but I think I like that the most. Of all the games that we talked about for a game stack, this one seems like the most viable for a game stack in my eyes. And I really like doing it maybe with Tua or Trevor Lawrence, because I think there's plenty of guys who can be played here are going to be under 10% owned. Ooh. And yes.
Someone bring up Brian Thomas, actually.
Yes.
Someone else I'm bullish on this season is not Brian Thomas. It's actually because Brian Thomas has been struggling a little bit, just a little bit. I think midseason he'll be a different story. But just out of the gate, I'm actually a little bullish on dusty-ass Gabe Davis. How gross is that?
It's gross.
It's gross. 4,500 though. I don't know. I kind of like Gabe Davis.
I really like how you strapped on the Millie Maker helmet, though. I'm respecting these.
Maybe you just need to change the scenery, man. He did have some games in Buffalo. He just couldn't. He wasn't consistent. Maybe he can be more consistent in this offense. We don't know.
He was perfect for best ball last year. You had about 5 or 6 usable weeks. I remember though. They were high upside weeks too. But don't forget, it was just Diggs and him, and then maybe a little bit of Kincaid.
So who are they here? Brian Thomas has looked a little bit shaky. The stats have not looked great.
I think Thomas is going to play a decent bit, and it just takes one.
A lot, but he's not generating targets in the preseason. He wasn't getting open.
There was no Kirk either in those two. So if you want to use that preseason as a sample size, that's a good reason. He's going to be low owned though, 4,700. I would rather play Kirk at 5,500. I'd rather play Ingram. I know they're going to be higher owned, so I'm not being.
I'm a long-term buyer on Thomas. Short-term, I'm buying Davis.
I like it. All right, Broncos and the Seahawks. We are going to be missing Snyder's take on this because he's a big Broncos guy. He actually really likes Bo Nix, which I couldn't hate Bo Nix more as a prospect. So I was looking forward to clashing heads with him on Bo Nix. But instead, I got to settle if you guys like or love Bo Nix yourself. So, Kurt, give me your take on, the Broncos offense in general. It's going to be a really gross situation in that backfield. I think a lot of people would be like, oh, Javonte Williams is back to normal. I think they're completely underestimating the fact that Jaleel McLaughlin is still going to play 35-40% of the snaps. Sean Payton really wanted to play, 3 running backs last year. But I do have interest a lot in the Seattle Seahawks. And I think Kenneth Walker, 6,100, is one of my favorite plays of the slate at the running back position. People are acting like Zach Charbonnet is going to be a factor. Unless Kenneth Walker gets hurt, that's the last we've really heard of a relevant Charbonnet. Walker is just 10 times better. The coach has been gushing over him all training camp, all preseason, all saying all the great things that Kenneth Walker can do. You also look at the rest of this offense. So Kenneth Walker is the most chalk at 18%. Not a single skill position comes in over 4% for Seattle. It includes Metcalf, Smith and Jigba at under 5K, Geno Smith. So, Kurt, when you look at this team, maybe Javonte is at 10% too. He's worth mentioning. Everyone else is lower than that. Is this a game where you're like, I can play a running back or two from here, or maybe just move on?
On the Seattle side, I do like Kenneth Walker and DK Metcalf. DK's awful cheap. I think they kind of turn it around a little bit on offense and start looking a little better. So I do like those two picks. I can't do the Denver Broncos thing again. I do think that maybe Sean Payton does have his guy that he's been looking for, but I can't buy on. I'm already buying Atlanta's offense turnaround. Like Tennessee, I cannot buy on another offense turnaround. So I'm going to take a wait and see approach. But I do think it's possible that Payton's been waiting to find a guy that he kind of wanted to craft, and this could be Bo Nix, Old Man River.
Fair enough. So Kenneth Walker really just for you here, maybe?
DK Metcalf is a really sneaky play.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I'm going to pull up some stats here in a second, Drew. But anyone from this game,
he's got Surtain on him, won't he? Will Surtain follow him?
That's exactly what I was looking up.
Was it really when you said that? I was like, I bet he's going to go look it up. I know you.
I was going to throw it to Drew, and then I was going to circle back on that. But yeah, Drew, any interest in the Seahawks Broncos matchup?
Just for the Seattle side, and honestly, a lot of the exposure is Seattle defense with Kenneth Walker.
Yeah,
I do have a few. Yeah, I do have a few Geno Smith stacks, but most of my exposure is playing Seahawks, which again I don't think their ownership is going to be that low with Kenneth Walker, so it'll make a nice little offset there. So that's pretty much it. No, I do have a little bit of Denver, but not much. It's really just Javonte Williams and Cortland Sutton as one-offs and random lineups.
All right, I like it. Surtain, I'm not able to get that information because my computer started to bug out immediately after I searched for Patrick Surtain statistics on NFL Pro. So we'll get that one. We'll get that one later. Let's go ahead and move on to one of our last 3 games in the slate. I have a big spiel on the Chargers, and I'm going to get into that spiel. If people have watched the best ball shows, they've probably heard it a ton. But really, I'm going to throw it to you here, Drew. Joshua Palmer is only 5,200. Ladd McConkey is only 4,700. I don't think this is the week for it. I think the Raiders are going to play a really slow pace. I think they're going to run the ball a ton. I think this game is a chance to go under. And the biggest reason for that is not the Chargers. It's because Antonio Pierce is going to give this Raiders team an identity of wanting to pound the ball 25 times a game. And Zamir White probably being the biggest benefit of that. But really, their quarterback situation is really bad. You have a healthy-ish, Chargers defense coming in at 2,900. Who is actually projected for the most ownership in this game outside of Joshua Palmer at 12% and 10% respectively, or 11% I should say. And then outside of that, this game just dips off a map. Any interest in this one here, Drew?
Joshua Palmer as a one-off. That's pretty much it. I do have Chargers defense, grading out pretty good against Las Vegas. So we'll see how Las Vegas stands this year. But for now, Chargers, and then Joshua Palmer as a one-off. And that's really it, man. There's a sprinkle of some Las Vegas stacks just to try to see if something weird happens. But yeah, for reference, I got Palmer in 13 teams and only 3 of those have Herbert. So it's Palmer one-offs is the only way I'm taking it, really.
Perfect. Kurt, any interest in this one here?
Not yet. I do like the 2 Georgia guys long-term. Bowers and Ladd McConkey going against each other in this one, but nothing here. I think you got 2 coaches who, like you said, are going to want to just pound it.
You're wrong.
Huh?
You got 1 coach who's going to want to pound it.
Wait, you think
one coach has a top 5 quarterback and has never had a top 5 throwing quarterback in the NFL until this point?
so they're going to do more play action stuff then? But everything's going to be stem off the run.
I don't think so.
You think Harbaugh's not going to run the ball 30 times?
I don't think Harbaugh's going to do it when he's got Justin Herbert at quarterback, one of the best ones in the game.
It's going to be 50-50. Maybe
you what? Chargers, top 12 offense in the NFL this year. Book it. I think they're going to absolutely surprise people.
And they're going to run the ball too.
Here's my thing. People are going to assume that.
Passing?
People assume it with Greg. Oh, Greg Roman only ran. Well, look at Greg Roman's quarterbacks: Colin Kaepernick, Tyrod Taylor, Lamar Jackson. He has not had a top 5 just pure arm talent that he's had to play with. They molded Andrew Luck into what he was going into the NFL. They just haven't had it. They are great coaches. They are 2 great coaches. Look, ask the Ravens. They missed Greg Roman a little bit. I'll say it. I think that this Chargers team is going to surprise a lot of people, and I think Herbert is going to have a huge year. I'm going to be buying in on Joshua Palmer at 5,200. I'm going to be buying in on McConkey at 4,700, especially for this week, but all season long. This is not going to be a ground and pound 40 times a game and stuff.
It's not going to be volume. They're not going to get it from volume. They're going to get it from being efficient. It's going to be an efficient offense.
Volume.
Both.
No,
volume.
You're on crack. You're literally on crack.
Tell me. Hate on me.
So I agree with some of it. I do think this offense is going to surprise people. It's going to be efficient. Herbert's going to be like completely different. He's going to still be him. He's going to be completely different. Like they're going to be able to move the ball and they're going to win games more than what people think. But it's not going to be through volume. You're literally on crack. There ain't no way a hardball Greg Roman team is just going to air it out. Like there ain't no way. Stop it.
So do you have a take?
Goddamn Peyton Manning back there. It ain't happening.
So which running back do you want to take? Because I see 3 of them that they're gonna.
Whoa! They're gonna play all 3. We ain't doing that now.
No, they're not gonna play all 3. It's J.K. Dobbins or bust.
Okay. You think they're gonna just play Dobbins until he dies and then play Gus?
He's a fellas.
That's how it worked in Baltimore. That's how it worked in Baltimore. You just wait for
chat. What do you guys think?
That I don't know.
Are they gonna air it out? I need to hear what the chat thinks. So, am I wrong here? Is that
why not use Herbert? Why wouldn't they use Herbert?
No, I'm not saying they're not going to use him, guys. I'm just saying it's going to be a very balanced attack. It's going to be a little bit run heavy. 55.
A little bit balanced attack.
Yeah,
with that snide comment in there. I love it. 4,800 yards for Herbert coming in, passing through the air this season.
Air.
MVP.
These guys are on crack.
Book your Justin Herbert MVP tickets today. But as far as this game, individually, this is a low total. This is going to be a slower pace game because of the Raiders.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, because of the Raiders. I'm not that, but I will be buying in on Palmer.
Here's what's going to happen, Ruby. I'm sorry. I don't want to drag this out, but here's what's going to happen. This offense is going to, tomorrow they're going to be efficient, but they're going to be 50-50 like I call. Everyone's going to be like, oh, but look, they went off. Yeah, but they were still 50-50 and they didn't air it out. They just had a good game, which is what I literally said. They're going to be efficient. I'm done.
The only way they do 50-50 is because they're up 14 going into the second quarter.
Yes, exactly.
Up 14. We're abandoning the pass because we're up 14. What is this? Come on.
Yeah, in the second quarter. So they're up 30 in the third
Raiders,
quarter.
I guess.
All right. In the sake of time, it is 10:04. We got to move on to the final 2 games. Much as I could spend hours in the Chargers. We get Jaden Daniels taking on his first start against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a game, Kurt. I got to end with you here. Just start with you here, I should say, because you're a Tampa Bay Bucs fan. You get the gist with this offense here. You got a Rachaad White who is projected for the most ownership at the running back position for today at over 30%. Chris Godwin being chalk is different to me. A guy who didn't really have that much buzz in the preseason or anything like that. I mean, he's a fine play at 5,800, but 16% ownership feels really high. As far as Terry McLaurin, only 13% ownership for him. Jaden Daniels is projected for around 6. This is a game, it's almost sneaky in a sense. I mean, if you're going to tell me I can get McLaurin and Jaden Daniels under 20% combined, I think I'd be buying on that, Kurt.
My mom texted me and said, stop cussing. And then you get me so worked up with the Chargers thing. I literally dropped the Lord's name in vain. So thank you for that. No. So sorry, everyone, for that. Sorry, Mom. She just stopped throwing the F-ball. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to drop the Lord's name in vain. How about that? Sorry, guys.
I'm surprised she didn't say stop giving out bad takes.
Okay, here's another bad take for you. The Bucs, I'm a Bucs fan. I'm here in the south of Tampa. We can't rush the passer right now. It's a big issue. So we've seen games shoot out down here. I think Jaden Daniels is a decent GBP stab, or if you just want to take it as I think they're going to be able to efficiently move the ball. That way you can kind of throw in a one-off for the Commanders. That's kind of what I'm looking for here is just to anticipate maybe like a 2-touchdown performance from just someone on the Commanders. And I don't really know who, but just take with that what you will. I don't think the Bucs can rush the passer. I think Jaden Daniels will be able to get comfortable. I think he'll be able to scramble around. I think he's going to have a good game. I'm very bullish on Terry Mack all season and that connection. And does he Zach Ertz? Cliff Kingsbury just continues to not let this guy go in retirement. It's similar to like what Taj Gibson and the Knicks coach. He just won't let him retire. That's Cliff Kingsbury and Zach Ertz. So I don't really have any Bucs takes yet. I don't want White. I think Bucky Irving's going to have a significant role in this team. He's looked awesome. And even our third string running back, Sean Tucker, has looked really impressive too. So no Rashad White for me yet. I mean, Jaden Daniels, 5,700. Him and Terry Mack make an awesome million maker tandem. That Bucs defense is going to be so bad because our only chance at having decent corners was when we can rush the passer. We can't do that. This whole defense is going to be very bad. Maybe I'm talking myself in even more Jaden Daniels and Terry Mack.
That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all. And if, for those wondering if Kurt is just that mean in general, no, we've known each other for a long time. So if he gets that worked up, it is probably because I did egg him on a little bit extra. I apologize for that, Miss Jones. I am 100% with you on Jaden Daniels. I'm going to be buying a ton. And the fact that you're a Bucs fan who's not bullish on the defense does make me happy. Drew, my biggest fear for Jaden Daniels in the NFL is the amount of times I saw his soul leave his body during college because he takes a big hit is numerous. It is definitely more than just a couple fingers. He gets hit hard. If he learns how to slide, though, especially in a game where it's like game one of the season, he's going to be healthy. So you just get through the game. 5,700 is too cheap for that type of talent, right?
Yeah, no, I do like that. And they're all incredibly low owned, I think, for a game that could go either way, flip-flop between Tampa Bay or Washington winning. So yeah, I do like Jaden Daniels with Terry McLaurin. I do like White a little bit more than Kurt, and I will say didn't really do much game stacking, but as far as talking about stacking one player with a QB, I did stack some Godwin with Mike Evans with Mayfield in this one a couple times. And the main reason was just price on Godwin being so low, nothing else really. So take that for what it's worth. If I'm going to, I think that's the only game I triple stacked a QB or double stacked a QB. So otherwise, yeah, it's really just playing some of these low owned pieces from Washington. I do like that side quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it too. I think Jalen McMillan's actually going to be like firmly the wide receiver 3. Trey Palmer and Devin Tompkins were the one who split that duties last year, right, Kurt? Like Devin Tompkins and Trey Palmer played a decent bit. McMillan's the guy, though, the wide receiver 3, though, 100%.
Yeah, he's looked awesome. How much is he tomorrow?
3,300, and he's only 2% projected ownership. So if you're looking for a leverage play, like that's good, right?
So Drew, I feel like last year it was never Evans and Godwin together. So I think maybe the 2-man stacks, if you want to get really crazy, because I know we don't need a value receiver, but if you want to get really crazy, maybe it's like Godwin and Jalen or Evans and Jalen.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. And typically, you're right. They did not go off together. I think it's more of a price thing, getting a high-priced Mike Evans, who has the same projection as Godwin at, what is he, 50? Shit, I just had it.
58 and 60.
58, thanks. But yeah, I think they have the same projection. So that's probably why I'm getting them jammed in together in those stacks.
That makes sense.
And it is worth noting, too, the Washington Commanders were by far the worst secondary last year. So you want to attack Washington through the air.
This game could really shoot out. I mean, these defenses are very, very bad, guys. Like, they are very,
I agree with that, actually, a lot. Like, if I had a hot take on a game that could shoot out, it would be Tampa Bay being sloppy, going fast, and same with Washington, same thing. Going fast, turnovers, and touchdowns.
This could be like a 35-31 game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I like McMillan as a little leverage playoff, maybe one of the chalkier wide receivers than Evans. Like Evans projected for 9% ownership. We had that. Binking was asking about that. Frank Nitty, we have Snyder. He is currently enjoying life right now at the Colorado-Nebraska game. Nebraska is putting a butt whooping down on Colorado right now. He'll be back next week, though, so no worries on that front. Guys, I'm buying all the Jaden Daniels McLaurin stock. I don't mind running it back either. That is probably my second favorite game stack. It might be my favorite. It is definitely edging out with the Jaguars and the Dolphins there. So
Is it weird that like McLaurin to me has like upside like Justin Jefferson? He just never had a piece that could actually feed it to him to get that ceiling.
I might be
that was my take the last couple of years, man. He never really.
He's good, bro. He's very.
That's
very
what
good.
I think. I think he's really good.
He's the only one there at this moment. You point out a guy who can get 100 yards receiving on that team. It's only Terry McLaurin. Like De'Ami Brown ain't getting it. Luke McCaffrey ain't getting it done.
I think he's a star. He just hasn't had anyone that can get him the ball efficiently.
Wait, double stack?
Saying Kentucky. I'm a big Ohio State guy. McLaurin is like he's one of the best wide receivers come out of Ohio State.
Who's how many snaps do you think McCaffrey gets? Because this is the Millie Roundtable. Let's not forget. So,
Luke,
I mean, can you throw
Luke.
in? Is he the wide receiver 2 or 3?
He is the slot guy. Is what? So we have a bunch of Washington Commanders fans in the chat, and I think it was Matty Ice 307 or something like that. I asked him, "Is Luke McCaffrey the slot guy?" And he said, "Yeah." They literally have no one else, so you can expect to see him play probably the majority of the slot. Olamide Zaccheaus and De'Ami Brown playing maybe more on the outside opposite.
The cheap wide receiver could be in this game.
Yeah,
we're talking about bad secondaries. I mean the cheap. I mean, come on, guys. Secondaries are bad. Like, don't go crazy, but the cheap freaking receiver could be in this game.
All right, I'd like it. Let's move on to our last game. The Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns. It is Tom Brady on the call for this one. I did see that when I was watching college football. He was interviewing from Cleveland, Ohio. Imagine you're an NFL superstar. You retire, and the first assignment you get is Cleveland, Ohio. I apologize for Tom Brady. So let's go ahead and see the ownerships in this game. Jerome Ford is projected to be the chalkiest guy in this game. CeeDee Lamb is closely behind. This goes to that saying, though, Drew, and this is maybe why I didn't like Godwin a ton, is like I'm doing very much stars and scrubs. So like that makes sense why I'm landing on Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. So the ownership to me feels light on these superstar wide receivers. And that might not be accounting for guys like Chase missing, right? Where I think that ultimately balloons, Joseph Austin's ownership a ton. So like the stars and scrubs to me like is so easy. But if you were going mid-range, Godwin does make sense in that case. But CeeDee Lamb, I think he gets closer to 20% than he is 10%. And then it is actually the Browns defense projected at 10% ownership. Is that a narrative that Dak sucks?
Maybe? They're like the top 4 highest owned defense, it says.
That surprises me.
Yeah.
And I get it.
The doghouse, baby. The doghouse.
Oh, I can't believe you did it. I can't believe you actually did the part. Drew, no one else in this game is projected for ownership outside of those 3, Ford, Lamb, and the Browns defense.
Yeah, and that's pretty much most of what I have. I do have some Cleveland stacks with Deshaun Watson, very few. But Jerome Ford, I think, is probably my highest owned with CeeDee Lamb as the other highest owned. It's really it. I think they're just one-offs, too. I don't see any, a couple of Deshaun Watson stacks, and then most of it's CeeDee Lamb as one-offs. Like, he's even too expensive. I'm not pairing him with anybody to go off with Cleveland. So this is not really a game stacking spot for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one guy I actually like Njoku a lot more than Ferguson. Njoku, he went off toward the end of last season. I know that was with Flacco, so you can't really just say, "Oh, you're so good toward the end of last season." But he's like a legit good tight end. I could play some Njoku at 1%. So
it just it's price he's considered a spend up for a tight end, to be honest.
Very much so. And if you were going into that mid-range wide receiver, though, I think that does unlock the mid-range or the spend-up tight end more so, too.
Yeah.
So, Kurt, it's Jerome Ford, it's CeeDee Lamb, as we were talking about. Any interest in maybe these tight ends? Drew said he had a couple of Deshaun Watson stacks. That's kind of him to donate to the field. Anything else?
Not really. It's just just those guys. I think someone mentioned in the chat about how this is like a leverage spot, just a one-off. Yeah, I think, and you do so with I just think the tight ends are too expensive, just a little bit too expensive. Like, if I'm already going up there, why would I not just go up to Kincaid or like something like that? I mean, come on.
I would say the spot is just Lamb. I can't pinpoint. I mean, you can talk me on the total.
Ford's my favorite in this game. What?
I get it.
I haven't built yet, though, so I don't really know. It could be a pricing thing where he's not hitting.
I can't hate I can't hate a former UC great who just blew a 27.
Maybe defenses. Maybe this is my defensive game because Cowboys create turnovers and Deshaun Watson. Look, man, I'm starting to get a little bit concerned that he's just. I don't know if he has it.
Dust.
Yeah, I think he might be dust, and I think he likes to turn the ball. And this dusty version of himself turns the ball over a lot, and the prime version of himself turned the ball over. Decent amount for early quarterback.
Even then, though, the Cowboys defense is the most expensive defense on the slate, which shocks me. They're more expensive than the Bengals.
That's sad.
Yeah, I can see the Browns being popular now at 3,100. That I guess it does make sense a little bit. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into our plays of the day. All right, so here's my rule. All right, we talked about a bunch of chalk today, and that's fair enough. That's on me as the host. I apologize. I should have maybe forced us into these 1%ers. We'll see if I actually follow up on that in a week. I want Saber Sim ownership applied here. Under 8% owned. So you guys both have access to Saber. Under 8% owned play of the day here. So remember, the guideline is Saber Sim ownership. So if someone does come in over it, sucks to suck. We don't have to worry about it, though. We did play by the rules. So, Kurt, I'm going to allow you to keep looking. I'm actually going to go to Drew first. Look how that curveball there. I really
Thank you, bro. You got me. You got me.
I got you. So, Drew, give me your under 8% owned play. You know what? Give me a thumbs up when you want me to stop talking and filling it. Oh, you're
ready. I'm ready.
He's on it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, Drew.
A+ student.
I'm multitasking, actually. Kurt, I got to change the vibe.
I'm over here smashing buttons on Saber, bro. I'm in shambles.
You're good. I got some time to spare here. Take a guess at how many people. I just watched the last fight in the UFC slate tonight. The dude scored 164 points. Woof. Guess the split up top. First place split. Number of teams.
50.
150.
You can guess a better number than that. You're close though, Kurt.
54.
69.
Oh no! You got that.
Come on. 69 teams tied for first. 100K to first. They each split 2K. Oh man.
Oh wow, that's gross.
Yeah. So
oh my god, I got mine.
You got yours? Okay, good. So mine is going to be DK Metcalf. I think DK Metcalf has a ceiling for a CD Lamb potentially in a perfect game script, but he's 3% owned and he's 2K less. So DK Metcalf is my guy.
Perfect. DK Metcalf, a man with a ton of upside. And I actually think I would lock it as a way lesser of a role this season than in years past. I think it is going to be the Metcalf and JSN show this year. So I like that. Kurt, you said you got yours. You said you were excited. So I'm actually going to hold you to a high bar here. You have to impress us.
Okay, now you said under 8% on Saber, right?
Yeah, Saber.
Okay, so I wanted to go Terry Mack, but he's not under 8. So
yeah, you would have stole mine if I didn't apply rules.
Okay, so I was going down here, and it was just so fitting that like the very first guy under 8% on Saber.
Oh yeah,
the guy I liked. We're going Gabe Davis, the play of the day. Gabe Davis, 7.9% owned on Saber. Gabe Davis.
To be fair, he should be like a lot lower.
Oh yeah, he'd be like 3.
Yeah, he should be 3. He should be DK Metcalf's ownership.
Like 8.
Yeah.
Well, so Gabe Davis, it's poetic justice.
So as much as of nice things I had to say about Drew's, yeah, Gabe Davis is Kurt's play of the day.
I hope he gets literally 2 targets, 1 catch, 80-yard tud.
That's really his only script.
I'll be happy for you.
That's not his only script. Okay, maybe it is. 3 targets. 3 targets.
No cursing, Kurt. Please. No.
Dang it.
There's mothers present.
All right, my play of the day. We're going deep into the cellar for this one here. Oh no, never mind. I broke the rule. I didn't think he was.
SaberSim just updated ownership and you got screwed.
I swear I had him at under 8. It would have been my boy Jatavion Sanders, but no. We're actually going to go a different Texas rookie. And a rookie that I'm going to be bullish on quite a bit. And I'm going to stack up with Anthony Richardson when I get the chance. Oh, way to ruin the surprise. It is the rookie.
I think you get for talking shit about my play. I always pick him about legend for you.
I had to go with the Texas rookie. It is A.D. Mitchell. This guy looks like he's just a stud. He explodes off the line. He was open a ton during that preseason game. But also, he was open a ton at Georgia and at Texas. I think A.D. Mitchell comes out without Josh Downs. This is the week to attack. If Josh Downs comes back next week, you're going to be like, man, I really wish I bought in on A.D. Mitchell and stuff. 3,800 is really cheap. Fits in a lot of stars and scrubs builds. Really like him, and you can pair up all the studs with him.
That's strong, yeah.
So, all right, guys, I appreciate you. DK Metcalf, Gabe Davis, and then, of course, we also had AD Mitchell in there as well. So, Mitchell, no, he's not.
7.44, right?
Yeah,
I got 8.2. I got 8.2. What am I looking at? I'm probably looking at last year.
I think they're updating as we go, and I'm going to refresh.
I had Gabe Davis at 2%. Kurt, you were looking at projection.
Oh, was that? Oh, shit.
I'm about to say.
Bro, it's 10:30, dog. I'm usually asleep by now. Oh, it's so bad.
You just gave away their projections on Saber. Okay. On that note, everyone have a great rest of your day and happy NFL season. Again, code RPS15, 15% off your first purchase here at Run Pure Sports, and bye-bye.